Okay, so if you are not ready for some tough love today, then you probably want to skip this episode because you continue to call it grace, giving yourself grace. But the reality is, you're giving yourself permission to do the same thing over and over and over again. The thing that you said and that you know didn't get you the results that you want. Welcome back to Success Unscripted, where we release the fluff and really talk about what success looks like from the inside out. This is what it looks like for you to challenge yourself, for you to really understand what success looks like for you and how we actually get it. My name is Jessica Rivera, and I am your host, your no fluff, your realness, your tell it to you straight and give it to you straight, no filter host. And I'm excited about this episode. So this past week, I had a mid-year reset. We are going into the last half of the year. It's about to be July 1st. And I worked with my clients to really understand why we get what we get and why we are not getting what we deserve and what we truly want. And it really starts with our beliefs. And so I went through this continuum where we really spoke about what are our internal beliefs. And we're going to talk about this today a little bit. We spoke about how our internal beliefs then dictate our external goals. Based on what I already believe about myself, I'm going to set this type of goal, maybe a little bit more, but pretty much in alignment, right? Then our external goals then determine our actions. Our actions, of course, that gives us our results. And our results, none of it matters even if we get it one time, if we can't consistently do it. And that requires accountability. So it's a continuum, right? Because even if you master one belief, then we go back to the drawing board and we figure out another belief that we have to tackle and that we have to kind of evolve with, right? So we're going to get into this a little bit and really we're going to talk a bit about like the neuroscience behind it, because one of the things I love about what I do and working with people is that some of this can feel like fluffy, right? Some of it can feel fluffy, like meditate and do all these things. But I love the practicality of the science behind it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because listen, you know what you want, right? You may even write it down. But what happens when you fall back into your comfort zone? What happens when you fall back into what you already know? Because this whole growth thing, it's not easy. It really isn't. And it forces us to challenge everything that we already know about ourselves. It really forces us to challenge all of the things, the outside stuff that we do. And so when you think about, okay, you wrote down your goals, who did you say you were going to be in the beginning of 2025? And is that in alignment with who you are today? Who did you say you were going to be in 2025? Oh, and by the way, if you didn't set goals, probably part of the problem, okay? Do you have a clear indication on who you want to be? Do you? Is it crystal clear? And if it isn't, okay. And if it is, and you wrote it down, and maybe you even told some people, but are you there? Are you making the moves to get you there? Or are you baby stepping it? Which I'm okay with baby steps, but come on. Sometimes we're giving ourselves grace, but really the reality is we're just allowing us to sit in our own comfort zone. We're allowing us to sit and wallow. We're allowing us to do the same thing we've been doing year over year, summer over summer, winter over winter. And so this is what I want for us. I want us to really talk about what happens when your brain, your body, and your energy, when it starts avoiding what it wants to become, when it starts giving you that pushback, right? It's like, it just feels so challenging, right? Okay, so let's talk about this. So your brain, and if you're around here, you probably know this already, your brain isn't wired for discomfort. Our brains are wired to protect us and to do what we already know and do it on repeat, right? And that's why we stay in relationships too long. We stay at jobs too long. We do the thing that we don't want to do. We say yes to people and things that we know we don't want to do, right? That's our brain wired for comfort. That's our brain wired for safetyness. That's our brain wired for what we think we know is going to happen, right? So if we continue to do it that way, it delays our success. It delays us doing what we want to do, being in relationships that we want to be in, things like that. And so I'll give you a book that you could read or listen to. I don't know if you know Joe Dispenza. He talks in detail about this in his book called The Habit, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Joe Dispenza speaks about this, about how we literally default mode back into our comfort zone, back into our comfort zone, back into what we know. And so when you stop for a second and think about what is your comfort zone, sometimes we don't even know we're in it. What is your comfort zone, right? So maybe your comfort zone is staying in and retreating because, so I've heard people say, I like animals more than I like people. So if that's your comfort zone, maybe you need to go out more. If your comfort zone is going out all the time and numbing, I had this conversation with somebody the other day and he was like, oh, are you trying to say I'm numbing? I said, I don't know. Only you would know that. Only you know. I don't know, right? I don't think doing anything in moderation, who am I to say? But you know when you're numbing, you know when you're avoiding. And avoidance is not helpful. Listen, the queen, I used to do that. It's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. Like it's fine. Or numbing in a way of going out, staying busy, going to every networking thing, going to every event, going to every party, going to everything, numbing because you don't want to feel. And if we don't want to feel, I don't believe that that's true, but okay. If you don't want to feel, it's kind of like that bad employee. He doesn't get better on its own. He doesn't get better on its own. That bad relationship, it doesn't get better on its own. Even like with our kids, sometimes we want to just give up. We can for a day, but we still have to come back and tackle it. We still have to address the issues, right? So there's this Harvard Business Review article that talks about habit loops, the habit loops that we put ourselves in, right? And so it's like cue, routine, reward. So it's like a trigger. They call it a cue, but like a trigger. Something happens, you go back into your old routine, you get your reward, right? Then you go back and you go back and you go back, and your brain doesn't value that goal anymore because we already know what we're going to get. Right. And so when you start rewiring your brain, when you start rewiring yourself, and that's why books like Atomic Habits are so popular, is because we know it's within the things that we are doing daily. And we know what we need to do, yet we don't do them. That's where consistency and accountability comes in. That's where we start. You ever notice? I don't know if you've done this, but I know that when I'm in parts of different groups, that my output, number one, it becomes more. And number two, it becomes like the goal becomes higher, becomes more of a stretch goal because of the accountability. Because I know someone's going to ask me about it. Because I know someone's going testing me and saying like stretching me. That's the beauty of being in community. That's the beauty of being around people that are thinking the way you're thinking, are thinking bigger than you're thinking, right? And so when you think about why this matters is because we get addicted to the chaos. We get addicted to the negativity. We get addicted to doing the same thing. And this is where the inner chaos starts, right? This is where that friction is, that angst between that gap between what we are doing and what we currently have, our current results, and our desires. And the older we get, the more further apart it feels, or the closer it feels. These days, things are feeling real close. That gap is feeling smaller and smaller. And even when I don't get what I want, I don't feel my body reacting as much. And I'm just like noticing, like this feels so much better, right? So there's a theory called the Festinger's theory. And in this theory, they explain when your actions and your values do not align, your body throws up a red flag, right? And so, it's like that gut feeling or that tightness in your chest when someone asks you to do something and like, no, 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 that's not what I want. That's not what I would do. That's not, no, no, no. That is the Festinger's theory, right? When your actions and your values do not align, when you say yes to the thing that you don't want to do, that's and you feel the tightness, like the annoyance, that's your red flag, right? So every time you say, I'm going to do it, but you don't, not only are you decreasing your confidence, not only are you telling yourself you can't trust you, but you're also telling your body you can't trust you. right? And so it automatically will cause some stress in your brain because you've already disappointed yourself before. And now you already know you can't take you seriously. You can't take you seriously. And to cope, most people don't change their behavior. They change the story. Let me say that again. Most people do not change their behavior. They change the story, right? It's not that serious. Oh, I was just overwhelmed. Oh, I need a break. The timing is off. Oh, it's not me. The problem is all people are like that. All women are like that. All employees are like that. All men are like that. Like the stories we start making up in our minds, that's the dissonance. That's cognitive dissonance. That's when that starts happening. That's when you start, instead of changing your behavior and say, listen, this growth thing is not easy because we have to start looking at us and we have to start taking full accountability for our beliefs, for the way that we think, for the way that we treat people, for the way we allow ourselves to be treated. It's not easy. It's not easy, but that is where clarity comes in. That is when you start taking full accountability, that's where clarity comes in because the fact that you are not changing your behavior and you start changing the story, well, that's not clarity. No, that's cognitive dissonance doing its job so that you don't feel like a fraud, rather, right? So that you don't feel like a fraud, so that you justify your own story, but you have not changed your behavior. How does that work? How does that work? Right? Because you still feel it. You can make up all the excuses you want, but that inner static still whispers, that inner voice still whispers, I'm not being and I'm not doing what I said I would do. I'm not being who I said I would be. I'm not living up to my own potential. Whispers back to you. And that's a you thing. That's not anybody else. That's a you thing. So if a friend kept canceling on you, if a friend kept on ghosting you, if a friend kept on doing that to you, you would not trust them. And so your nervous system doesn't trust you. Every time you cancel on yourself, every time you choose to do something else instead of what you know you're supposed to do, you are telling your nervous system you can't trust you every time. And over time, it becomes a self concept, like this self, yeah, like a self, God, I can't think of the phrase, but you get what I'm saying. It's like this concept of I don't follow through. I'm not a good public speaker. I'm all talk. I start things and I don't finish. I don't execute. Right? That's why we're afraid to even say that we're going to do the big thing or even try to do the big thing because we are already have disappointed ourselves so many times that we're afraid we're going to do it again. We have disappointed ourselves so many times that we are afraid we are going to do it again. And that's not just emotional. And you could look this up. It is neurological. It's not only emotional. Okay. So you start to expect failure from yourself. You start to expect failure. You start to expect disappointment because, at the end of the day, we've been disappointed and we have disappointed ourselves. When you think about the partners you've chosen, when you think about the disappointment you've had, a lot of that has to go back to self-accountability. And if neurologically and emotionally you've been disappointing yourself, the only way to change that is through your behaviors consistently. It's not just a one-time thing. You have to consistently change your behaviors, right? So that you can stop self-abandoning. You're not stuck. If you're telling yourself, oh, I feel stuck, you're not stuck, but you have been self-abandoning. You have been self-abandoning, and that's why you're still stuck in that cycle. So once we start changing our behaviors, once we start looking internally at ourselves, see, the other problem is this: we want instant gratification, right? We want it to happen fast, we want it to happen quick, and we want it to happen now. But that's just not how it works. We have to put our reps in. And it's like, yeah, but I've been dating and I still didn't find Prince Charming. Well, maybe you still have to look at you. Maybe you're still picking the wrong person because we're the picker of these people. Oh yeah, I tried to deliver this speech, but I'm still not the best public speaker. You haven't put in your reps. You haven't put in your reps, right? Oh yeah, I got this one huge account, but I can't get another one. Okay, you got it once, you could do it again. And so if we really go back to my friend Joe Dispenza that I was talking about, he breaks it down really beautifully. he breaks it down really, really beautifully. He says that your thoughts are electrical, right? Our thoughts, they send out, it's like the time that you think about that person and then they call you or they text you. Our thoughts are electrical, right? And our emotions are magical. I love how he breaks this down. So if our thoughts are electrical and our emotions are magical, if your thoughts say one thing and your emotions say another, you're energetically scrambled. If your thoughts say one thing and your emotions say another, you're energetically scrambled. And so what is your energy telling everybody? Because, we feel each other. We feel each other when we walk into a room. And when you think about, okay, think about that as far as clients are concerned. Think about that as far as finding a mate is concerned. Think about that as far as friends are concerned. You're not in alignment. And that is the friction for you to you. That's why you feel tired. That's why you are easily annoyed. That's why you don't have patience for people. Yet you want people to have patience for you. Make it make sense. Make it make sense, right? You're draining your energy trying to pretend to believe what you've been backing up in action. You are draining your energy trying to pretend to believe what you've been doing in action when you know you should be doing something else. When you know you have to pause and take a moment and say, you know what? This is not what I want from me. Because if you're giving yourself grace and taking a pause and doing all of that, and I was talking like a day pause, maybe a week. But if you're saying, you know what? I just don't want to feel, I just don't want to tackle this right now. And you eventually come back, then you're going to beat yourself up even more because you wasted more time. And we're back to self-abandoning. We're back to beating ourselves up. And that is not helpful. So energy doesn't lie. If you've been stuck, if you feel stuck, if you've said you feel stuck, well, then that's your signal. That is your signal to do something different. That's your signal to do something different. And you know it. You know it. You know it. But it's time for you to start investing in you. It's time for you to start believing in you. It's time for you to start thinking that playing big is not for you. It's because you don't really think that, but you convince yourself of that because it just feels more comfortable to play small. It feels more comfortable to not say the thing in the meeting, to not do the thing, to not write the book, whatever is on your mind. It just feels more comfortable. Really, that's why I created Communicate to Lead. That's why the first thing I did when I started my business was create coaching groups. Number one, because it's what I did, meaning teaching online. It was like my everyday job because I worked remote since 2007. And I ran teams to know that it was time for people to step into the bigger version of themselves because they feel it. They're on the precipice, but they keep on shrinking. They keep on repressing those emotions. They keep on pushing themselves down because that's what they're used to. Every time I see a client transform, every time I see a client take bigger action, every time I see the results, I was speaking with her over the weekend and she said it's been a year and she was renewing for another 6 months. She said, I remember you told me that not to worry, because she mentioned like the price of buying another bag or whatever. And I said, don't worry about it. You're going to be able to pay for me and get that new bag. And she said, you're absolutely right, because she's bringing in so much more money. She's closing more accounts. And forget about closing the accounts, forget about the money. She feels better. She says more of what's on her mind. She challenges more. She is living in feeling like she's in so much more alignment than she was before, that now we're going on another 6 months, a year and a half together. And that feels so good for me. And so your energy doesn't lie. When you are ready, when you know you're ready and then you continue to delay, that is that angst. That is that signal in your body to yourself, you need to do something different. And really, I feel like the root of all of this is communication, because we are communicating with someone from the second we wake up. Obviously, it's ourselves first. And the most powerful conversation you'll ever have, a therapist told me this many, many eons ago, is the one you have with yourself. The most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. So what are you telling yourself? You feel it in your body, you're ready to go. You need something more. You feel stuck. You feel stagnant, but you don't do anything about it. Or you play small and you do something like a little tiny baby step. Yeah, that's not what you want for you. And you know it, right? Communication isn't just what we say to others. Of course, it's what you say to you. That's most important. Your inner voice, when you start tapping into your inner voice, which is exactly what we teach and Communicate to Lead, is how to get more in touch with me, and you allow that to guide you and be your instructions, it's so much easier. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for permission. You have the title. You know how many executives and how many people I coach that already have the title and they still wait for permission? You stop waiting for permission. You stop and you start saying exactly what is on your mind in a way that feels really, really good to you, right? And that's why in Communicate to Lead, we don't just teach presence. We really start teaching the powerful inner dialogue that you need in order to get to the next level, right? Because of course, and you know this, leaders lead themselves first. It's not about leading other people. It's about leading yourself first. And you don't need to have the title to be the leader in the room. You can command the room the second you walk in through just your energy and your presence, right? And so if you took nothing away from this, I want you to understand that the real cost of avoidance is you not living the life that you truly want. The cost of you not asking yourself these tough questions is the cost of you not getting the things that you desire. That is you keeping yourself in the gap and even getting bigger, because I don't believe that we stay stagnant. I believe that either we're moving forward or we're moving backwards. There's no staying still. And so if you feel stagnant, you're probably moving back because you are not willing to bet on you. Bet on you as far as having those tough conversations, asking for what you truly want, knowing what you really want, doing something differently. Stop going on default mode and forcing yourself to stop and ask yourself, what is it that I truly want? There's a stat out there that says 76% of people's biggest regret is tied to the ideal self they never lived. Let me say that again. 76% of people's biggest regrets, and that's probably even higher, is tied to the ideal self they never lived. Not the failures, not the losses. It's the being, the version of themselves that they knew they could have been. You can't justify, well, let me say this. You can justify the delay all you want, but one day it becomes your legacy, and that's the cost. The cost will be she should have, I could have, and I didn't. That's the cost. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for any of us, if I'm being completely honest, because you know your potential. That's that gap between, and that's the angst because you know your potential. You know you're better. I don't know why you're doing you like this. And so if this episode hit, it felt like, oh yeah, she's talking to me. Yeah, I need to know more about that. Then applications for my next cohort of Communicate to Lead are open. I'm going to put the application in the show notes. The people that come out of there and the results are amazing. They have more tough conversations than they've ever had in life. They stick up for themselves more. They speak up in meetings. They've gotten promotions. They've made more money. They've gotten more sales, more clients, all of the things. But more important than all of that is that they feel more comfortable in their skin. They feel more like themselves because they can now speak up for themselves. And so if you want that for you, go ahead and apply to the next cohort of Communicate to Lead starting soon. We will be closing out applications and I interview most people, like 99% of the people, unless I already know them, who come into the program. I would love for you to sign up, fill out the application, and let's have a conversation and see if this is the right program for you. But you are not stuck. You are just overdue for some alignment. You're overdue for you to start saying exactly what you need, exactly what's on your mind. And you're overdue to start doing what you say you're going to do. Start actually doing what you say you're going to do and start holding the commitments that you make to yourself. Because if I know you, you're quick to hold a commitment that you make to somebody else, yet you will break the commitments that you make to yourself. How does that work? How does that work? And so you don't need another title. You don't need to go back and go get your master's, your LSAT, your bachelor, everything, you know how many clients I know that went back to school to get an MBA and then thought that that was going to be the magic pill. That was going to be the fixer. That was going to fix me. And that was going to make me more confident. Yet they go back and they do not feel more confident. They do not feel like, oh, now I can speak up in meetings because I have these 3 letters behind my name. No, they're still themselves because it is bigger than just getting 3 letters behind your name. It's about rewiring those neural pathways that have been set for a very, very long time. And so communicate to lead is way less than, it's not about the external. It's about getting in touch with your gut, really understanding why am I doing the things that I'm doing? But it does take you wanting to do the work. It does take you wanting to face yourself. And so if you're ready, I got you. I got you. I got you. Remember, if you took nothing away from today, you're not stuck. You're just not in alignment, right? Say what you mean and do what you say. It's time. It is time. And lead like you mean it. And that starts with you. It starts with you. This is not theory. This is actual results that I've gotten. And I want you to be part of it. So look in the show notes and go ahead and fill out an application for Communicate to Lead. We will talk soon. I am signing out. Make it a great day. And know, if you do nothing else, just take inventory of where you are making commitments to yourself and not following through. Lead boldly, love on yourself, and love on others. We'll talk soon.